Hi, welcome to our PlantPure Kitchen Live. I'm Kim Campbell, and this is Laura Campbell, my daughter. You've done how many shows with us now?
I think 2 now. This is my 3rd.
This is your 3rd, right?
Yeah.
And today we're making Spanish paella, and I brought Laura on board because she actually lived in Spain for 2 summers, and you were the one that inspired me to make paella. So
Yeah.
can you tell them what paella is?
Yeah, it's a really traditional dish in Spain. It's a lot of rice and vegetables. In Spain, they usually use a lot of seafood, but you can get like any different type. They have vegetable paella, seafood paella, chicken paella. They've got everything. It's super popular over there, and yeah, I really like this version. It's a lot healthier, and you don't feel as heavy when you get done, so I think it's a fun recipe.
And it's a one pot. Well, it's sort of a one pot. They do it all in one pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they used to do it, the peasants used to do it over, did you know this? They used to do it over a fire. And they got a paella pan. Paella means pan. They would get a big, big pan that was shallow, maybe a couple inches deep, and they would put it over the fire, and then they would put everything in one pot. So it's got layers of oil and chicken and seafood.
Yeah.
But we're going to make a plant-based version because this is a really easy recipe to make plant-based. I think the biggest thing I struggled with is the rice, and I'll talk about that in a minute. You probably want to heat up your pan. If you're sautéing onions, you want to heat up your pan. So Laura's going to go ahead and do that because she's going to make the recipe. I'm going to teach her how to make paella because you've never made it before.
I've never made it. Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about the Instant Pot. I had told people if they were going to cook along to, prep all your vegetables and prep your rice. Actually cook your rice because if you're using brown rice, short grain brown rice, it takes about, depending on how you cook it, stovetop it can be 40 minutes. I'm going to cook it in my Instant Pot. Some of you have rice cookers and that's wonderful. But I wanted to feature the Instant Pot. You don't have to have an Instant Pot, but boy, it makes everything easy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Our kids all have Instant Pots too. This is the little 3-quart. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the rice going. So I'll take, the pot comes right out so you can see the pot. Give that to you. And I bought something called short grain brown rice. And it's, paella is made with a short grain white rice that looks kind of like this. It's shorter, it's got more starch in it, it cooks really fast, but we're going to use a short grain brown rice. If you're not a brown rice fan, try short grain brown rice because it's stickier, it cooks a little bit faster, and it's just a really nice, sweet, nutty flavor. However, if you want to cook your white rice right in the pan, and you want to use white rice, Dr. McDougall, I listened to one of his videos and he said, if you want to use white rice because you can't really adjust to brown rice, it's okay because you're going to eat so many vegetables in here anyways. The difference between brown and white rice is they take the hull off and they take the bran out so you don't get the B vitamins and some of the fiber, but we have so much fiber going on here. So if you want to do white rice, you're forgiven. You can try the white rice. So we're going to add 1.5 cups of short grain brown rice to the Instant Pot, and then 2 cups of, 2 cups of vegetable broth. With the Instant Pot, you don't need as much liquid. If you're doing it stovetop, you want to do 3 cups of vegetable broth. You really want to season the rice while it's cooking because normally paella cooks in that pan. Oh, you could probably start the onions. Yeah, Laura's going to start the onions. But if you're seasoning it in the Instant Pot, you're still going to get those flavors. So the next thing I told you to put in your Instant Pot is you can use turmeric, which is the cheaper way to go. But we had to try Spanish saffron, and I used saffron threads. And I made this the other night, and I put a teaspoon of saffron threads in here. Way too much. Tell them what do you think it smells like? Like flowers, maybe?
Yeah, maybe like flowers.
It's kind of flowery, fragrant. It's very expensive. I think I paid $7 for this little bit. But I'm just going to put a pinch in there because we were overpowered with it. It wasn't awful, but it was definitely strong.
Hey, Kim.
Yeah.
Do you recommend rinsing your rice before cooking?
I don't rinse the rice when before I cook it. There's starch on that rice, and I definitely want to get the starch in here, so I wouldn't worry about it. I never do that. Okay, so I'm going to put the Instant Pot top on. If you don't have an Instant Pot, let me tell you what this thing does. It makes yogurt. It makes beautiful rice. It's a pressure cooker. It's a slow cooker, and it's, I don't know, I think the little one is about $60. It'll pay for itself because it makes great beans and rice, and to me, this is a great thing to have in your kitchen. So we're going to turn it on, and I'm going to close the pressure valve so it can build pressure. I'm going to go to 23 minutes. That's 20 to 23 minutes. That's kind of my magic number for rice. And then I'm going to forget about it. I'm done. Is that caramelizing?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure that in Spain they used white rice.
I think it was white. It wasn't really too sticky, I think, because they put a lot of oil in it, which makes it nice and smooth.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So what they tend to do is they use a lot of olive oil on the first layer, and then they put onions in. You could probably go ahead and throw the rest of this in here. She's got garlic, and she told me earlier I had way too much garlic.
It'll be good, though.
5 cloves of garlic. And I used shiitake mushrooms. The reason I use shiitake mushrooms is they're more of a meaty flavor. I was thinking earlier, if you wanted to make this sort of a seafood kind of flair to it, you could use king oyster mushrooms. And you can,
that'd be good.
Yeah, you can cut them in these like little circles, a stem, and you can put them in the oven and roast them. You could put a little bit of seaweed on them, a little bit of white wine, and then you would get that sort of
well, usually it's mussels that they put in.
mussels.
I think the mushrooms kind of replace that pretty well.
But I'm thinking of the flat, what is that word? The fish that I'll think of it, what you'd use the king oyster mushrooms for. Scallops. So you could do vegan scallops with the king oyster mushrooms. So what Laura's doing is she's just kind of sauteing those. There's a lot of moisture in mushrooms, so the moisture will kind of pull out. If you want it to pull out a little bit more, you can sprinkle a little bit of salt in that. That'll help speed it up a little bit. So you've added everything in there. Did you put all your herbs and spices? See, this is such a quick recipe. It goes really fast. So Laura's doing, oh, no, that's the wrong one. She's using my herbs from the garden. Yep. I used fresh rosemary and fresh thyme and a little bit of salt and pepper. Smoked paprika. I think it's a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Yep. And then half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. If you don't want it spicy, you can leave the red pepper flakes out. But I like it spicy. Now you just might want to, just kind of get all those flavors really incorporated, because you got to remember when you're making paella, it's all going to be absorbed into the rice. And I thought carrots really lended a nice sweet flavor to this. And the mushrooms are meaty. What kind of vegetables did they use in Spain?
Peas. I think I had peas, maybe red peppers. Might have had mushrooms.
Eggplant?
No.
You could use anything. You could use eggplant
you
or
can really put anything in
zucchini.
There weren't really a lot of vegetables in the vegetarian version. It's mostly rice, but it was still good.
Yeah. It smells really, really good. It's starting to cook down. I put green beans in there. You can put any kind of green bean. You can also use lima beans or white beans. A lot of people like to use that. You don't think that's right?
I've never had it like that, but it might be good.
I always break all the rules, so I'm calling it a Spanish paella, but I've never been to Spain, and I've never had this at a restaurant. But based on what you told me, I think we've got it right.
Yeah, and I like it too, because it's one of those dishes you eat it and you just feel heavy for hours after. So this is really nice.
So I think you could probably start putting everything else in there. We've got a can of fire roasted tomatoes. You could use fresh tomatoes if you want. I'm cheating. And then a a wine. Don't forget the wine. We're using a sort of a dry red wine.
Hey, Kim.
Yes.
Alethea wants to know, what can she use instead of wine? Like, would red wine vinegar work?
I would not use red wine vinegar. I would just leave the red wine out completely. And I did the second time. We made this 4 times in the last couple of weeks. The second time I made it, I left the wine out, and Nelson really noticed it. You could maybe use a little bit of grape juice because it'll sweeten it, so you don't want to add more than a couple tablespoons of that.
Yeah, I did notice that the red wine added a really nice flavor note.
Yeah.
And also, for people who are concerned, the alcohol does burn off.
The alcohol
when you
cooks
cook.
off, especially in this dish, because it's going to cook for quite a while. Laura just added
Tamari and a tablespoon of tamari. I can't say this.
and the vegan
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire sauce. That's because I raised her the right way. She doesn't know how to say, I didn't know how to say it for the longest time. But really, you can make your own Worcestershire sauce. It's made with vinegar and molasses and a little bit of cloves. There's different combinations, but you don't have to go out and buy a fancy vegan Worcestershire, whatever, Worcestershire
Yeah.
sauce. All right, so you might want to turn that down a little bit. And the next thing I'm going to do, this is a really fast recipe. As I already, before you came on, I already made my rice, and maybe a lot of you already made your rice too. It's in the Instant Pot. So I had strict instructions from Nelson not to put too much saffron in this, so I did. But you can see how yellow it is, and I don't think that's the brown rice.
Yeah, it's always really yellow in
Yeah.
Spain too. I don't know why, but
Yeah. And saffron is so expensive, it's more expensive than gold. So it's interesting that the peasants made paella. I don't think they used saffron when they were making it. All right, Laura, I'll hold the pan and you can go ahead and put that in. I also have had a lot of people ask me what kind of a pan I use. So this is a La Crusette because we have an outlet here. I believe it's a 5-quart brazier. It's enamel coated. It's really nice. I love it. This also is a really big dish. As you can see, it easily feeds 6 people.
yeah, the restaurants in Spain only serve it for 2. You have to have 2 people to order it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you don't have to, but you probably should.
Yeah. So we're really not done with this recipe. We're going to let it just simmer for a bit. You know, in Spain, they tell you not to stir it too much. When you put the rice in, you're just supposed to kind of swirl it around if you're making it in the pot, and then you let it do the rest. And they actually like it when it gets a little crusty on the bottom, kind of crispy. They almost burn the rice, and that's considered good. Put the top on the pot. And then we'll talk about the garnishes. And Laura, do you want to cut a lemon? Mm-hmm. Actually, I'll cut it because I think I'm probably... So we're going to cut a lemon because at the top of this, the top of the paella is going to have lemon around it. And you really, really want to put the lemon on the dish because for some reason it really adds a nice flavor to it. Plus this knife is really, really sharp. Mm-hmm. All right, so we've got the lemons. That's going to go on the top. And then there's artichokes that are going to go on the top. Do you want to cut those?
Hey, Kim.
Yeah, they're already cut.
Mary
think that's
Beth
good
wants
enough?
to
You can do
know
it again.
if Mahatma rice, yellow Mahatma rice, would that work?
You know what? I think any rice will work with this. I think it's really up to you. I think you could try. There's no rules. You can break all the rules. You could use short grain brown rice. You could use long grain brown rice. You could use parboiled rice, which has a little bit more nutrients in it than a white rice. I even thought you could make, listen to this, a quinoa paella.
That would be interesting.
Why not? You could put, I make a Aztec quinoa. It's in the PlantPure Kitchen cookbook, and I throw it all in the pot, and I put the top on like Laura just did. and it cooks and it bubbles and it's just really nice. So I think you can use any kind of rice.
Mary Beth says that the yellow Mahatma rice has saffron in it. So,
Oh, I didn't
so
know
if
that.
you use
that'd be
that, you
perfect.
probably wouldn't want to put more saffron in it.
So Mary Beth, where do you find your what's it called? Mahatma rice?
Yeah, Mahatma
Where
rice.
would I find that? So type it in, let us know. Rice is not easy to come by right now. I noticed that the shelves at our grocery store here in town were kind of cleaned out. There wasn't a lot of choices to choose from. So this is what I tend to buy all the time. But my son never liked brown rice. So I used to use regular white rice for him. Sometimes I'd sneak a little bit of brown rice in. And then we're going to, I want to talk about the artichokes for just a quick second. I used a can and I rinsed them because there's a fair amount of salt in your artichokes. You can also buy them frozen. Trader Joe's carries them frozen and there's no salt in that, but they tend to be a little bit mushier. But the can has more of a salty, a little bit of a sour flavor to it.
It makes it fishy though, if you're going for that.
That's true.
So.
That is true. Artichokes really give a nice flavor to everything. So then we're going to put olives on top, and you probably want to slice those up. I chose Kalamata olives because they're using a lot of olive oil. You can just use whole or chopped olives, and you'll get the same nutrients. There's a lot of good fats in these. These are kind of fruity, I think a little earthy. And in Spain, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but we have a friend who lives in Spain, and she said that in Spain, what they do is they love oils. They produce half of the olive oils in the world. Did you know that?
Yeah, they put it on everything. Even toast, they pour olive oil on their toast.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Wow. And if you go to someone's house, oftentimes they give it to you as a gift. Like you would give somebody a bottle of wine, they give you a bottle of olive oil.
Yeah, I believe that.
So we're going to use the whole olives instead because that's always better. And then peas, we're going to put peas on top, make it pretty, and then parsley. So you want to go ahead and garnish it up. This just came to pressure, by the way. You probably heard it. And so once it comes up to pressure, the Instant Pot, it'll count down from that point. So Laura's putting lemons all around it because that's how they serve it in a restaurant. And they serve it in great big paella pans, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
So when you eat at a restaurant in Spain, do they give like one pot for everybody to eat out of?
Mm-hmm. One pot and then a few little plates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you have to order it. At a certain point, they won't even let you order it if it's too late because it takes so long to cook.
How long does it take them to cook it from the time you order?
I guess not that long. It's at least, I think, 20 or 30 minutes, which for a restaurant, sometimes that can feel like a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's faster, the Instant Pot, though, because that takes like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, I was actually wondering if you could actually make a whole paella in the Instant Pot, but then I think it just needs time to absorb all of the flavors and, really. Mm-hmm. We're not going to stay here that long, but I would keep this on the stove for 15 more minutes and let it really, really absorb flavor. It looks like it took me longer than it did, but I prepped my vegetables and parsley. She's putting parsley on top. And it really goes quickly. This is a really nice meal if you're having company too, because it's just a one-pot meal. We had company, you were company. We had you over and we got some bread and we had some wine and dinner was served. So let's dish it up and try it, Laura. For those of you who don't know what artichokes look like fresh, this is a fresh artichoke. When the kids were little, we used to steam them, and then they'd pull the leaves off and get the meat inside. And
yeah, I really liked them.
Yeah, I used to work to get all the way down to the artichoke heart, which is kind of fun.
And Kim, I would add that squeezing a little bit of lemon juice on your serving makes it really sing.
Yes, absolutely.
Scoop it out.
Yep, scoop it out, and we'll have one for you guys to see for the camera people. Maybe go ahead and put a little bit more in that.
Okay.
Perfect. That's really pretty. And then there's one for us to try. Did you turn it on low?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's really good. That's very good. So the story behind the saffron is that Nelson and I put way too much saffron in. This is so much better. I put just a pinch in. If you use turmeric, I think that's perfectly fine too. So, all right, that's it. That's all there is to paella. It's really a simple recipe. I hope you'll come back next week. We are doing summer dessert. No oven, no stove. Everything's going to be raw. I think you're going to really enjoy it. A little bit of lime and a little bit of chocolate. So join us next week, and have a great weekend.